In this video, we'll be covering hooks and eyes. So we will cut 2 of these rectangles, and it's just a basic rectangle for you to stitch your hooks and eyes on, and we'll have 2 samples on this one set of fabric. So we'll do our standard hook and eye over to the left, and then our skirt hook and eye over to the right. So when you're placing your hook and eye, your hook should go on the left-hand side, and your eye or bar, depending on what you have, should go over on the right, and they should just be next to each other. So I've got my hook here, my eye here, and then I'll do the same thing with my skirt hook and eye when we get there, over on the other side. As you can see here, I've also got the curve of my hook pointed towards the center where it will meet up with my bar or my eye. So to begin stitching this, I'm going to start with just the hook. You will be doing a buttonhole stitch. So this is a hand stitch again. We will need a piece of thread with uneven tails on our needle. And then right where I want to get that started, I'm going to go on the backhand side and do a stitch in place to secure the ends of my thread. So just take a tiny stitch on the back, stitch over that same spot several times to secure the end of your thread. Okay, now you can come up to the surface of your fabric, and we'll be ready to start putting our hook on. So right where that thread is coming up to the surface of your fabric is where you should start your hook. You're going to go through the center of one of those rings. Get your hook in place, and then we're going to start doing our buttonhole stitch. Let me see if I can do this to where you can see. Okay, I switched to a different hook. It's a little bit bigger, oversized, so that's easier to see on video. So come up straight through that ring that you're starting on, and then when you go into the fabric, you're going to go in just outside your ring. And then do not pull it fully tight. You want to leave a loop on the top side of your fabric. You can see my loop there. Now come back up through the center of your ring, right where you began. And before you pull it tight, go through the loop. And then you can pull tight. Oops, missed the loop. There we go. Pull tight. Now each time you go into the fabric, you're going to scoot over just a little bit so that your stitches fan out across your ring. So they kind of wrap around your ring. So here, I'm going to go scoot over just a little tiny bit, go into my fabric, leave a loop, come up through the center of the ring, through my loop, and then pull tight. Okay, so I'm beginning to get these 2 stitches that fan out, and they'll continue to wrap around the edge of my ring. When I'm ready to go on to the next ring, go to the back of the fabric, and scoot over to your other ring. You'll come up through the center and do the same thing on the other side of the hook. As we mentioned before, I will have my hook with the curved part towards the center, and then my bar or my eye will face my hook as well. So that a bar will just go vertical, and the loop of the eye will go towards your curve of your hook. So you'll place those two there, and for each ring that you have, you'll do that buttonhole stitch around the edge. For a skirt hook and eye, a skirt hook and eye is more flat. Flat, and these two, I have a bar, and then this is my hook. These two snap together a little bit more securely. They're also larger and flatter, so they give you a little bit more security and less bulk. And these typically replace buttons on dress pants or dress skirts. So we'll do that one over here on the other side of our sample. I'll place my hook on the left-hand side with the curve of my hook going towards the center, and then my bar just over here. Now this one, the only place where you will have to do a buttonhole stitch is on that single hole at the edge here. You'll do a buttonhole stitch to secure that one hole. These other holes, you can go back and forth and just stitch them like you would a typical button. So let's go ahead and see how that works right now. Where I want that hook, again, I'm going to start on the backhand side and stitch in place to begin. Right over that same spot several times to replace a knot. Okay, come up to the surface, place your hook on there, and you can go through one of those rings. So in my case, I'm starting with those two side holes. So go up through one of them, and then you'll just go down through the other. So up through one, down through the other, and you'll just keep going back and forth between the two. Up through the one you started with, down through the other, and you will need to do that about 8 or 9 times to get it really secure. You want enough thread on there that if you have some friction, it does not immediately pop and unravel. Okay, so just go back and forth between those two holes, and then once I'm done, I will tie off on the back. So again, go to the back, stitch in place to secure off your threads, and I'll move on to the next set of holes. So I'll do that. For each set of holes, again, the single hole I will do a buttonhole stitch on, and then when you look at our bar, it has 2 sets of holes, so I can just do the back and forth on the top, back and forth on the bottom, and tie off. And that is how you secure a hook and eye.